Have you ever felt like Jesus is far away, as if he were somewhere distant, inaccessible, watching your life from above, but not interfering? Maybe in those silent moments when the room grows dark and the world outside keeps spinning, you've asked yourself, Lord, where are you? But what if I told you he's closer than you think? That maybe you've already encountered him and didn't realize? Yes. It might sound strange, but the truth is Jesus doesn't always come with lights from heaven or a thundering voice. Often he reveals himself in the simple, in the ordinary, in the gesture that goes unnoticed by hurried eyes. Jesus might be in that doctor who cares for a patient as if he were his own child, in that elderly woman who offers bread to someone hungry, in that child who smiles for no reason, but changes your whole day. Finding Jesus is not just a matter of faith, it's a matter of vision. And today, in this video, we're going to train our vision together. We're going to learn how to see Jesus not only on altars, but on sidewalks, in streets, in hospitals, in simple conversations, and even in the mirror. Because the living Christ hasn't disappeared, he's just changed places. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may forever change the way you see the world and how you see his presence in your life. Perhaps the biggest mistake we make is expecting Jesus to appear in grand manifestations. We imagine we'll find him in extraordinary miracles, celestial visions, or voices from heaven. But we forget a profound truth. Jesus never stopped walking among us. It's just that now, he walks in disguise, disguised as ordinary people. People you don't even notice. People you may have ignored just today. You know that woman who waited patiently in line even though her legs hurt? Or that young man who helped an elderly person cross the street without being asked? Or even that lady who smiled at you on the bus even though she doesn't know you? Yes. In each of these simple gestures, Jesus was there. He taught us this when he said, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Matthew 25:35. Jesus never said he would come dressed as a king. He said he would come as the poor, the foreigner, the sick, the prisoner, the thirsty, the hungry. In other words, he would come invisible to the eyes, but visible to the heart. And that's why so many pass him by and don't recognize him. Because they look for glory and not compassion. They seek light and not humanity. But when you quiet your mind, open your heart, and begin to see the world with the eyes of the soul, you begin to realize Jesus is here, right now, in the person next to you, in that unexpected phone call, in that sincere hug, in that shared tear. Seeing Jesus in the invisible is an exercise in presence, in listening, in compassion. And it's only the beginning. When someone cares for another with tenderness, something sacred is happening there. A doctor holding a patient's hand before surgery, a nurse calling an elderly person by name, even in the rush of a busy shift, a daughter spending the night beside her sick mother, even though she's exhausted after a long day. This kind of care doesn't come just from instinct. It comes from a deeper place. It comes from a heart touched by compassion. And compassion is a trait of Christ himself. Jesus didn't just heal, he touched, he drew near. He looked into people's eyes. He felt their pain and acted with love. Every time someone acts like that, with presence, with listening, with gentleness, Jesus reveals himself, not visibly, like in a sacred painting, but through the loving intention behind each gesture, in the silence of a caregiver who wakes up 3 times in the night, in the volunteer who bathes someone who can't move, in the outstretched hand to someone who stumbled in the street. To care is more than doing something for someone. It's truly caring. It's giving time, energy, attention. It's offering yourself, even when no one sees. And that's exactly where Jesus dwells. In the backstage of goodness, in what no one posts about, in what doesn't get attention, but holds the world together in silence, like when he washed the disciples' feet, like when he knelt before others' pain, like when, even carrying a cross, he looked at his mother, and still cared for her. This kind of love transforms care into a miracle, and that miracle can happen every day, right before our eyes. All it takes is an attentive gaze. All it takes is an awakened heart, because the Christ who healed still heals. Only now, he uses the hands of those who have chosen to love. Sometimes, it's in the face of another that Jesus reveals himself most clearly. When someone chooses to love, even without knowing the other, even without expecting anything in return, something divine manifests. A child who shares their lunch with a classmate who forgot theirs. A woman who prepares a meal and hands it with a smile to a stranger on the street. That person who sees someone crying silently and simply sits beside them, saying nothing, just being there. True love doesn't shout, it whispers. And every gesture born from that love is a reflection of Christ acting in the world. It's easy to talk about faith, harder to live it when the other is inconvenient, when life is rushed, when pride screams louder. But it is exactly there that love becomes the way, and that way is Jesus himself. He said, "Love one another as I have loved you." And how did he love us? By washing feet, by touching lepers, by eating with sinners, by forgiving those who denied him. Jesus' love doesn't select, it reaches. Someone who gives a sincere hug to a depressed friend, the young woman who volunteers to care for children with disabilities, the man who listens to a colleague's outpouring and simply offers a look of understanding, the homeless person who shares their hard bread with someone who has even less. Each act like that carries the light of the kingdom. Jesus is present where there is giving, where there is kindness, where there is compassion. It doesn't matter the person's name. It doesn't matter if they pray or have never stepped inside a church. Love is his signature. And when we begin to see that, everything changes. Relationships gain depth. Faith stops being just words, and the world starts to look a little more like heaven. The neighbor we often ignore may be the altar where God chose to dwell. And it is by loving that person that we become the living image of Christ. Because in the end, those who truly love evangelize without words and make Jesus visible in a world that's so blind to love. There is something profoundly sacred in those who choose peace, even when they have 1,000 reasons to scream, in those who hold their tongue when they could wound, in those who forgive when revenge would be easier, in those who refuse to feed hatred and quietly plant seeds of reconciliation. These people carry within them a spark of Christ himself. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of choice. And every time someone chooses to bring peace, to unite, to understand, Jesus manifests himself. He is present in the one who works honestly, even without recognition, in the student who pushes herself every day to become a professional who will make a difference in the world, in the elderly woman who, alone in her room, kneels to pray for the end of wars, for the sick, for the forgotten. Sometimes we think that to change the world we must be on stages or in headlines. But Jesus taught us that the kingdom starts small, like yeast working in secret, like a seed sprouting in silence. Every act of justice, no matter how small, echoes in heaven. The child who returns the toy that wasn't theirs, the young man who refuses to laugh at a racist joke, the woman who stands up for someone silenced, the man who chooses dialogue over violence. Jesus is present in these acts, not because they are perfect, but because they are driven by goodness. Blessed are the peacemakers, that's what he said. Not those who merely wish for peace, but those who do something about it. To be a Christian is not just to quote verses. It is to live with integrity. It is to carry a glow in your eyes that says, "I chose to be light in a dark world." There are people who don't preach with words, but with actions. And sometimes, one of those actions changes everything. It rebuilds bonds, disarms wounds, restores lives. They are instruments of God. They are traces of Christ among us. They are the living gospel walking through the streets, with head held high, open hands, and a clean heart. Because the justice that comes from God is gentle, firm, and silent. And those who walk with it carry Jesus in every step. There are moments when the ground disappears beneath your feet. Pain arrives without asking permission. Bad news comes. The diagnosis is confirmed. Someone departs, and the soul falls silent. It's in these moments that many ask, God, where are you? But maybe it is precisely in those moments that He is closest. Even if in silence, even if invisible, He is there. In the person who holds your hand at the hospital bed. In the friend who shows up uninvited just to say, I'm here. In the nurse who changes the sheets with care, even without hearing a thank you. In the chaplain who prays quietly for someone who can no longer speak. Jesus does not avoid pain. He enters into it. He did so when He wept for Lazarus. He did so in Gethsemane, sweating drops of blood in anguish. He did so on the cross, with His body wounded and His heart still full of love. He didn't run from suffering. He made Himself present within it. And today, He still does the same. He is in the mother who lost her child but still finds strength to comfort another mother. In the soldier who carries his wounded companion on his back, even at the risk of his own life. In the missionary who crosses war zones just to bring food, prayer, comfort. There is a presence that needs no words. That is simply felt. When someone looks into your eyes with true compassion, when someone hugs you tightly at the right moment, when even in pain you feel an unexplainable peace, Jesus is there. He continues to be the God who comes down, who kneels beside us, who feels what we feel, and who turns every tear into a meeting point with eternity. Suffering is not proof of God's absence. Sometimes it is the place where we draw closest to Him, because when the world breaks you, and someone helps you gather the pieces with love, you're not just being comforted by someone, you're being touched by Christ. God doesn't always manifest Himself in grand displays. Sometimes the divine chooses simplicity as a dwelling place. A tight hug given at the right moment. A plate of food served with care. A look that says, I understand you. A whispered prayer in a dark room. It's in these gestures that the presence of Jesus reveals itself, with a delicacy almost imperceptible, but deeply moving. The child running happily into their father's arms. The elderly woman praying in silence, holding a rosary with fragile hands. The young man holding back tears so as not to worry his mother. The neighbor who brings warm bread to someone recently widowed. It's there, in everyday life, in small acts that few notice. Jesus moves. He is in the one who respects others, even when they think differently. In the one who gently cares for a wounded animal. In the one who sends a message saying, You're in my prayers. The kingdom of heaven doesn't come with spectacles. It grows within those who love truly, and it overflows in the most discreet gestures. That's how Jesus lived. He didn't accumulate riches. He didn't seek fame. He didn't surround Himself with luxury. He healed by touching. He helped by walking. He loved by serving. And He taught us that every action done with love is like an altar built in the heart. The young man who sings to calm his sick brother. The girl who pushes a wheelchair through the park. The grandmother who tells old stories with sparkling eyes and patient details. The stranger who kneels to pray for someone they barely know. These moments make no noise, but in heaven, they echo. They are living prayers. They are expressions of wordless faith. They are the gestures that change the world, one heart at a time. Perhaps the miracle you've been waiting for is already happening, in the form of a kindness, a care, a small gesture made with great love. Because when love is true, even the simplest gesture becomes divine. Maybe the question isn't where is Jesus, but rather, what keeps us from recognizing Him? He is in so many places, in so many faces, in so many gestures, and yet we pass Him by as if He were invisible. The truth is, many times we're too distracted to see. We live in a rush, running all day long, from one task to another, one goal to another, one notification to the next. The heart becomes filled with noise, and the silence where God dwells gets lost. Other times it's pride. We expect to find Jesus only in those who look like us, who think like us, act like us, believe like us, but he was never confined to our boxes. Jesus was born in a manger. He walked with the outcasts. He spoke with the impure. He sat at the table with the rejected. He always revealed himself in the unexpected. But to recognize him, it takes humility. It takes clearing the eyes of the soul, slowing down, looking with tenderness, being truly present. "The kingdom of God is among us," he said. But only those with eyes of mercy can see it. As long as we search for spectacles, we will remain blind. But if we open our hearts to see as he saw, we'll realize he was never far away. The problem was never Jesus' absence. It was our absence of perception. Jesus always used stories to open eyes and touch hearts, and one of the most powerful is that of the Good Samaritan. A man fallen on the road, beaten, wounded, forgotten. Religious people passed by and crossed to the other side, but it was a foreigner, someone considered impure, who stopped, cared, tended to the wounds, paid for the lodging, and did for that man what many claim to do for God. There, Jesus taught us something profound. Those who love through actions carry Christ himself. Zacchaeus is also a living testimony of this. A tax collector, hated by many, small in stature and in reputation, but he climbed a tree just to see Jesus pass by. And when he was called by name, something changed. He gave back what he had stolen. He made things right. He transformed his way of living. All because he was seen, welcomed, touched. The adulterous woman, about to be stoned, felt the presence of a love that does not condemn but redeems. And when everyone abandoned her, it was there she encountered the purest gaze in the world. These are not just ancient characters. They are mirrors. They are clues. They are reminders that Jesus is found where we least expect, and that the simplest gesture, when done with truth, can rewrite destinies. When we love authentically, we become part of that story. Now close your eyes for a moment and repeat this prayer with me. Make it a sacred habit every morning, because when you start your day with God, nothing can bring you down. Take a deep breath, feel the presence, and pray with your heart. Lord Jesus, open my eyes, so that I may see you in the details, in the tired face of someone who needs help, in the silent gesture of someone who loves without expecting anything in return. Open my ears to hear your voice in words of comfort, in the laughter of a child, in the silence that speaks louder than 1,000 phrases. Open my heart so that I may not judge, but welcome, so that I may not just speak of your love, but live it with intensity. May I recognize your presence in the world, and may it be that wherever I am, someone may find you in me. Amen. Prayer is the moment when the soul opens and heaven draws near. It is in prayer that we train our sight. It is in prayer that we become more sensitive to the presence of Jesus around us. Those who truly pray begin to see with God's eyes and never go unnoticed by him again. Jesus is closer than we imagine. He walks among us, hidden in simple gestures, in hearts that love, in hands that serve. All we need is to learn how to see, and that begins with a willing heart, willing to silence the rush, willing to love without limits, willing to pray and cultivate his presence. Because when our spiritual eyes are opened, we not only find Jesus, we become his reflection. If this message spoke to you, I now invite you to multiply this light. Leave a like. It helps this content reach more hearts. Subscribe to the channel Inner Light, Infinite Wisdom, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new videos. Share it with someone who needs to find Jesus again in the middle of life's chaos. And comment below, today I saw Jesus in. I want to know where he touched your heart. Here on this channel, we walk together, in faith, in truth, and with our eyes lifted toward the heavens. See you in the next video. Until then, keep your vibration high and your mind connected to the divine.